Not the Footy Show.
The most brilliant commander in the Soviet Navy.
McGregor's trained most of their officer corps. He's nearly a legend in the submarine community.
The most deadly submarine ever built. His plan is a mystery.
A man with your responsibilities reading about the end of the world.
Apparently he has suffered a kind of nervous breakdown.
We sail into history. You're just an analyst. What can you possibly know what goes on in his mind?
I'll give you 3 days to prove your theory correct.
From the director of Die Hard.
Give this man a chance.
My orders are specific.
Battle stations.
Sean Connery, Alec Baldwin. The Hunt for Red October.
G'day everybody, welcome to episode 216 of Not The Footy Show. I had to check my notes because I'm in basically darkness here. I am by myself in the middle of the north coast of New South Wales, near the infamous community pool. It doesn't set me in the greatest light, but that's where I am. If you old-time listeners of Not The Footy Show would know what I'm talking about, and I'm joined once again by Mr. Robb Cox. He's in Campbelltown. He's nice and safe. He's in the place where there's actually power. So if this podcast is short, Cocksmith, it's because my laptop has died, or else I've been picked up on the side of the road by the police. One of the two.
Well, mate, look, for starters, I'm not in Campbelltown. I am in Camden. It's a big difference. And secondly, what the heck are you doing? Are you on a stakeout or something? What's going on? You're in your car. You're doing a podcast in your car.
I think it's been about 2 years since we did one of these. If I remember, it was about Flanagan and the Sharks doing something amazing in 2018. I think he got sacked about 2 weeks later for who knows what this time. But that's when we last did this podcast. And yes, there is nobody around, everybody. I'm basically in a tough position where the holiday house and the family is, there's no reception in the house. So if I tried to do this there, you wouldn't get a podcast. So I had to drive down to a decent area where there's nobody at all. I am literally waiting for a police car to come by and say, excuse me, sir, what are you doing? And I'll be explaining, I'm talking to a guy from Camden, not from Campbelltown, and they'll understand. If it was a guy from Campbelltown, I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely.
Rob, we have to get to a lot of round 5 action, but because it's Tuesday, we're going to pitch the podcast as more of a round 6 tips, which you will get from us. I think the last time we did tips, we did all right until Sunday, if I recall.
Yep.
I think we were 5 for 5 and then absolutely died horribly at the end. Round 5, though, has happened. We will get through a lot of that. The title of the podcast is Hunting for a Hooker or a Halfback. Who knows what St. George Illawarra want to do. They've still got a coach, though. That's good news. And we will go through a lot of the key talking points out of the weekend of rugby league. There is some sad news, however, before we start the show, and that is that Noel Kelly, the great Western Suburbs magpie, passed away at the back end, I think, of the weekend, early on the weekend. And, he's one of those characters that it's a shame I never got to meet him in my travels at the NRL. I asked you before the pod, you said you never had a chance to meet him either, but the stories going around is that this guy could tell a yarn. Is that what you've heard?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd seen him on the Not The Footy Show, not the Footy Show. I'd seen him on a Footy Show, and maybe on a Fox thing, a special on about his career. And he definitely had more than one yarn in his pocket. He could tell a story for sure. He seemed like a really nice fella. A real tough fella too. When he played football, he played the game back in the old days, and with all fire and brimstone. But from all reports, he was a very, very nice bloke off the field. So hopefully his family condolences to them, and hopefully he rests in peace, mate.
Yeah, exactly. I always think of it, especially in recent times. Gus Gould's been all about how hard it was to play in the 80s to the current players and the Paul Gallons, and saying you've never had it so good. Well, Gus never had it so good compared to probably what Noel Kelly went through.
Absolutely.
When they weren't even playing on proper grounds then. It's amazing to think of how football probably has evolved. But, yeah, some of the great characters and regarded as one of the greatest players up front that the game's had. I think he made the team of the century, didn't he, in the 900s?
I believe he did. The thing with Noel Kelly was, and I've seen quite a lot of highlights of his games. I've never seen a full game of him playing. But the thing with Noel Kelly was he was one of those, a little bit like Mario Fenech. He could play front row or hooker. and he'd swap in and out, as needed. But he was a genuine front rower, genuine hard man, and like I said before, a genuinely good bloke off the field.
Yep. So condolences to the Kelly family and the wider family and the Magpies community in particular. They lost two greats in the last couple of weeks, with Arthur Summons passing away recently as well. We'll get into episode 216 of the Footy Show after the break.
Not the Footy Show.
It's all supervised.
Not the Footy Show.
Okay, let's get into, I guess, a bit of a weekend review. We meant to do a podcast a bit earlier, but when the Roosters and the Bulldogs game got moved to Monday night, it's kind of wrecked our thought process. We want to do it Sunday night. We're ending up speaking on Tuesday night. And we probably have to start with just quickly on the Roosters and how clinical they were to dismantle the Bulldogs. It was 42-6. It could have been 100-0, as you messaged me after about 15 minutes. James Tedesco, I mean, we saw 59-0 against Broncos the week before, and he played against the Broncos. They could have got 100. He was unbelievable last night, and so was Brett Morris.
Yeah, mate, they are, it was like men against boys, and that's, I'm trying not to be disrespectful to the Bulldogs. I know they've got cattle issues there. Like I just said to you before the podcast, mate, the difference between the best teams and the worst teams this year is, as wide as the Grand Canyon. It's more so than a lot of other years that I can remember. And I don't know exactly what that is. Whether
have you got an issue with that? I personally don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I do feel sorry for supporters that, a die-hard, dyed-in-the-wall supporters. But nearly every team have their ups and downs. And unfortunately for teams like the Bulldogs and the Dragons, it's going through the dip, the downward dip at the moment. More frustrating, I think, personally for me, with the Dragons, because they've got quite a few internationals and rep players on, as we've spoken about before. But the Bulldogs, I was reading a tweet today about the Bulldogs, a disgruntled Bulldogs fan.
Wasn't Michael Ennis, was it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the Menace. It was, I don't know who it was, but he made a good point. He basically said, he rattled off a bunch of names and said, these were the blokes we had to get rid of to keep under the salary cap. Now look who we've got. And there's definitely a lack of, highly talented footballers at the Bulldogs at the moment. I know they're rebuilding, but geez, I don't know how they're getting to $9.5 million for the players they've got. I seriously don't. I'm not being nasty. I'm just saying that squad that I looked at the other night, there's no way in the world that there's $9.5 million worth of players in that 21-man squad that they name.
They do have some cattle coming in. Luke Thompson, the English front rower, who was supposed to arrive next year due to a few reasons, and one apparently, which is that he wouldn't take a pay cut while they weren't playing football over there. He has arrived in the country. I think on the weekend, he arrived in Melbourne. He's going to have to quarantine for a couple of weeks, but he is officially part of their roster now. The thing is, the one position you'd probably say they don't need help in is up front, but he's a front rower. It'd be very interesting to see how he plays, but he's not the difference maker. The difference maker they've got, and I messaged you last night and said, he's back. He's just got to play for the Bulldogs. Kieran Foran has been impressive in 2 weeks now. His fitness wasn't there his first game back. He played really well last night, and every time it went through him, the Bulldogs looked like they could do something. I'm not saying they could breach the best defence in the league, which is the Roosters, but he looked like he had that spring in his step, and he wanted the ball. He kicked the ball this week. He didn't kick it last week.
Yeah.
The problem is that the players around him, there's just not the quality. And Lachlan Lewis, he's just not the guy. And I don't know what they do there at halfback, but his game is defence and kicking, which is nice, but splitting the halves like Dean Pay has been doing, and which rugby league coaches pretty much do now, it just means that there's nothing. I mean, you didn't see poor old Jake Averillo, who we covered this before. It may have been offline or during the pod, but the one position you couldn't play Averillo in, as far as I was concerned, was centre, because of the defensive responsibility that would then go on his shoulders. He's a player that needs the ball, and you could see that when he finally got it, I think about the 65th minute mark before he got replaced, and he butchered the try. But you can't ask a kid that old and that inexperienced and clearly not a great defender to have to mark up on Tedesco and Manu and Morris.
Yeah.
And he gets thrown to the fire last night. And I've got issues with him then playing outside a guy like Lewis, who's not going to make the best of his ability. I don't know.
Lewis is a pretty good defender, and he kicks the ball okay. I don't think he's a great strategic kicker, but he's definitely out of place there in the 7. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Marshall King should be a half, a 6 or a 7. Doesn't matter. They both do the same thing on either side of the ruck. And, they need to do something with the 9, and maybe Lewis is the 9. You brought that up before. But there's other issues as well, there's some of them that don't even look like they're really trying. And I really hate to say that, because I know that most rugby league players, are, have great pride in their ability to try and to put efforts in. But just to me, the Bulldogs don't even look like they're really having a dig, a lot of them. Not all of them.
Something I really noticed last night, and it's not, exclusive to the Bulldogs as opposed to the Roosters, but the Roosters go up when they've got the ball, 2 or 3 blokes either side of who's got the ball. And it's almost every play, and they look to attack almost every play. That game, if you want an example of how 2 teams approach their football, and it's a confidence thing, is a massive element to it, but there's also how I honestly think that you coached. And that is, one team was flocking with the ball and the other team was 1 out, and badly 1 out.
Yeah. Look, that's a coaching thing. That's a coaching thing, mate. I mean, the thing is with Dean Pay, I feel sorry for him, because he hasn't got the cattle, but they also don't look very good with the cattle that they've got. They're not. It's not as if you could say, okay, well, if they had playing the game that they're playing, if they had this bloke, this bloke, this bloke, and this bloke, would they be going better? Well, the answer to that would be no, unless they were going to play a different style of football. So maybe he's dumbed the football down to the ability of the guys that are playing, which would make sense.
It's a hard sell with your fans. That's a big, and that's the hard thing.
It's the same with the Dragons. Right? It's the same with the Dragons. They're very similar supporter bases, the Dragons and the Bulldogs. So, it's very difficult, mate. But look, us 2 old flogs sitting here talking about it ain't going to change it.
Correct.
It's just frustrating, because I know that your second team is the Bulldogs. You're a bit of a Bulldogs.
Used to be a member. I think I chose the right year to get off the membership train.
I think you did.
When they tried to charge me full price, and but no games.
But anyway, it's frustrating.
Yeah, look, the Roosters, I echo what you're saying. They're
very good.
And it's a disparity. One of the Greenberg's favourite things he'd often say was, it's the most even comp ever, and it didn't mean it was the best comp. And I'm a product of the Raiders and the Broncos in the 90s and the 80s, and having dominant teams. The football, when you have a dominant team, is better to watch. I know you didn't really want to watch the game last night. I've loved watching the Roosters the last 2 weeks. I know they've beaten up on 2 teams, and last night could have been even bigger from a margin point of view. Yeah, I love watching teams play footy. That's my favourite saying in rugby league: play some footy. The Roosters do that, and they have just shown how much, since the resumption, how much of a distance there is between them and everybody else. We need to change gears to the title of the podcast, which is hunting for a hooker or a halfback. Ben Hunt, gone to the bench, comes on up to 25, delivers victory, delivers a premiership, if you're apparently reading some text that I got a little bit after the game from someone. What do you think? Because I've heard Michael Ennis declare that that's his position, that's where he's got to play, and that's the key of the Dragons turning it around. And I also listened to a guy called Andrew Johns, who did a few things in rugby league at halfback, say that it is ridiculous that if he stays there, and that he is a number 7 at club level who can play 9 at rep level, and it is just stupid to not persist in him at number 7. What's your view?
Look, we often find ourselves talking about this. I mean, I think for the last 3 podcasts we've talked about Ben Hunt, and the reason we talk about him, and people will probably say, get off his back, he's going through a bit of a patch. Look, he's getting $1.2 million a year, and every week he's going to have the blowtorch on his belly. Okay, he's not in my mind, he's not a hooker. Okay, he's a guy that can play hooker. The problem is for St. George is that their best player, McInnes, who digs every week. He's the guy, He'll bleed for you, and he has a go, and he is always having a go. You're going to displace him out of his rightful position as captain in the team, and also as the best hooker in the team, to fit Ben Hunt in the team. Now, look, the long and short of it is this: I think Ben Hunt's problem at halfback is he's not taking the line on. He's not willing to take a whack.
Yep.
The best halfbacks, think of your top 5 all-time halfbacks. They're all prepared to dig into the line and take a whack.
Yep.
Jonathan Thurston, Joey, they're all the best ones.
Langer Stewart. Yep.
They will run to the line and they will take a hit. They'll take a concussion to get a try.
But what that'll do is it'll create the doubt in the minds of the defence, who then go, well, if I've got to stop watch him, I can't watch the guy they're going to pass to as closely. I just can't afford to do that.
It seems that Ben Hunt, you just say to him, okay, all right, Ben, if you don't want to do that, we'll just put you in at hooker and you can just stand and deliver. Okay. And every now and then when you see someone, fat and lazy, run around them. I don't know if you're getting the player that you bought $1 million.
Or you need. That's the key bit. They need a halfback. Adam Clune's not the guy.
No, Adam Clune is doing okay, but he's not the guy that's going to turn your fortunes around. I mean, they got away with it on the weekend because the Sharks weren't very good, and they've got issues too.
That's being kind.
I'm sure we'll cover. But look, that's the long and short of it, mate. I mean, Ben Hunt should not be in the 9 jersey unless McInnes is injured and they've got someone that's going to have a crack at halfback. I mean, and they've got a few in the wings. They've got young Tristan Saylor, who's a 5'8" fullback. There's
a kid called Sullivan, I think, Jaden Sullivan, that they've got high hopes for as well.
Yep. But the elephant in the room is that Ben Hunt isn't really having a dig at halfback, and he's not performing to the level that they want and need him to perform. He's not going to win games on his own, but he's going to go a long way to steering the ship if he plays halfback the way they want him to play. And the way he played really at the Broncos, other than that one mishap when he dropped the ball in the grand final, he was a solid halfback.
He was good at halfback. He was a busy halfback who ran the ball a lot.
But it seems these days his whole style of game's changed. Now, whether that's the situation he finds himself in at St. George, and maybe he's not digging the way he's being coached, I don't know what's going on. But and I'm not baying for blood with St. George. I like to see him win. Let's be honest, they're only 2 wins out of the 8. If you know what I'm saying.
High hopes.
But I just think that something needs to change there, mate. And I think you and I talking about it ain't going to change it.
No.
But I disagree with Michael Ennis, and I disagree wholeheartedly with him, as much as I respect him as a former great player. And I like his commentary as well. I'm siding with Joey on this, mate. And I think his position is 7, but he's got to, he's got to change the way that he's playing at the moment to get back into that 7. I just hope that they don't do what they did to McInnes on the weekend. And you and I discussed this after the game. McInnes, it's like he doesn't. They want him on the field, right? He's fit enough to play 80. He's probably
He was lost in the first half, man. He was lost in the first half.
Ben Hunt goes to dummy half, and McInnes kind of hangs around the ruck area, but doesn't really. He'll have a run because he's gutsy. He'll run into the forwards. He's not worried about that. He's got no teeth left anyway, so he may as well lose the rest. But he will have a go for you. But he's not that running forward. He's not a Victor Radley style running forward or a Cameron Murray style running forward.
He'll try and be that for you, and that's the credit to him. Yeah,
he'll do whatever is asked of him, but that's not his strength. His strength is he's probably in the top 4 hookers in the game. And St. George are lucky to have him. But I'll tell you now, they won't have him for long if they keep replacing him with a bloke who should be playing in the halves.
Yeah, that's my main 2 points were going to be that McInnes, he came good in the second half in regards to the stats and getting involved and stuff, but he was really lost for half time. But the second one is, you're the Dragons, your club expects to win, your fan base expects to win. They have one option here. It's Ben Hunt at number 7. There is no other option. You didn't build this roster to experiment with Ben Hunt at 9 and McInnes in the 13. You just didn't do that. And if you think that's going to get you back to finals contention, you are kidding yourself. They beat up the Sharks.
You might win a game here and there, but you know, when the whips are cracking and you've got to take on the likes of Parramatta, Melbourne, the Roosters, Canberra. No.
Ben Hunter's at 7. Corey Norman's at 6. Dufty, who, give him full credit, he played really well on the weekend, and we're both fans of Dufty. We still can't believe he wasn't in the team for how many times he's been dropped. And McInnes is at 9. That's the mix, and you make it work around that. There are other things that I don't agree with what McGregor's doing. I still can't understand why Paul Vaughan's playing 50 minutes a game. That when he played 60 easy last year, and you got 3 stints out of him. That one, he's their best forward when he comes on. There is no question about it. James Graham played quite well, I thought, on the weekend.
I think he really, James Graham, you can see he's old, and you can see he's tired. But geez, he always puts a big effort in. He sometimes doesn't deliver what he wants to deliver, like he would have 5 years ago. But he's got he's heart as big as a lion. He'll always have a go for you.
And there were some good signs about Tyson Frizzell. He put off an absolute try saver. When I think it was Will Kennedy went back inside, he should have gone out wide to Dugan and the winger. They would have scored, but he went with the play that was called, and Frizzell came with a great try saver. So that's the situation with the Dragons. We can't spend heaps more time because we've wasted heaps of my battery already on basically how good East are, how bad Canterbury are, how good Ben Hunt was at 9, and the Sharks, less about them, the better. I do have to touch on one thing, and that is the Eddie Jones to Cronulla rumour that basically surfaced out of Matty John's podcast last week. Matty John's basically, they got onto Eddie Jones and the fact that he's mates with him and he had a drink with him the week before, and it came up again. And Matty Johns goes, I think he wants to coach NRL. He's a smart. And it was a good conversation. It was interesting. There's a headline the next day. Eddie Jones, shock contender for Sharks job.
Yeah.
This is so lazy.
I know. It's just picking up a little bit of something. And look, he's John Morris. I think he's a really decent human, and I think he can coach. I just think he's got this roster at a really bad time.
He does.
He's the club are paying a penalty for something he never did. So in reflection, he's paying the penalty because he can't get the full stock onto the field or into his ranks.
Oh, I lost my phone. Give me a second.
Yeah, what's happening? Oh, there it is. There's your light. So John Morris can't have that. John Morris has got an aging roster.
Yep.
We mentioned, you sent me a message the other day saying 3 years ago any club would have been happy to have Fafita and Woods in their front row. These days, not so much. Moylan, I don't know what's wrong with Moylan now. He played last week, I believe.
Hammies again
this week. Look, that's an ongoing thing. So John Morris doesn't really have the team he wants. Young Cherry's got his issues off field, so on field and off field with his positive tests to steroids. So that's another player he can't have. He lost Josh Morris before Cherry got discovered positive. So look, the school of hard knocks. I mean, poor old Morris has been, John Morris has been hit around the head, with that little baton, and I think he deserves another year or two. I think maybe he might do well with a coaching director in there, someone that can, oversee the big picture. I don't know who that would be. I don't know if Eddie Jones is your man. I don't know if Eddie's ever coached rugby league. But yeah, it's frustrating because they mentioned that in the press conference to him the other day about Eddie Jones, and he could, all he could do was kind of smile and shake his head and go, well,
Yeah, I listened to the podcast as well. He should have said. Anyway, getting to the other games quickly. Brisbane on Thursday night. I watched the game itself on 9, and then at halftime, not sure why, but I went to Fox, and they were just waxing lyrical. Broncos are back. They had all the ball in the first half. They played well, but they had all the ball, which is diametrically opposed to the last 2 weeks where they effectively didn't have the ball in the first half. Got rolled deluxe, and they actually had a weaker team, arguably, this week. If I'm Brisbane, and Seabold, I'm heartened by that performance. I'm disappointed that you didn't win after leading 18-0. But there's some signs there that, things are going to get better, and they're always going to get better after you lose 59-0 to the Premiership two-time defending premiers. Anything on Brisbane quickly from you?
No, look, they did look better. They look better for sure, which is, you'd expect them to bounce back. Proud club like Brisbane doesn't like getting the cane. But geez, I think Manly really did stand up in that game and got, the sway of possession, and then started to get roll on.
Yeah.
And there's some good defence at the end there that just saved Manly from ultimately losing
And
that
Manly
game.
lost to Power after about 10 minutes.
That's right. He broke his finger or something like that, or dislocated his thumb, or I don't know. But they were unlucky not to have him. Brisbane were better, definitely better. They weren't, kind of dead men walking like we thought they'd be this year. But I still don't know if they're going to be in my 8, mate. I can pick 8 other teams better.
Team trying to get in the 8, who are 9th again. The West Tigers. Michael Maguire did the old burning of the house, the farmhouse, the crops, everything during the week. Changed the way they were going to play. Said, we are playing boring football. We're going to defend our way to victory. They got done by the Raiders on Saturday night, who weren't good. They won the game, but they weren't good. Josh Reynolds came in and was Josh Reynolds. Luke Brooks missed Benji Marshall. I can categorically say that. He did not play well without Benji there. The game plan was as Maguire asked for. He admitted as much in the press conference afterwards. But if you've watched the vision, listening to it is one thing, but if you watch the vision, he is ropeable that what he declared would happen and how they would play didn't work. Because the trouble when you go to that style where you're not attacking and you're going through defence and you're going to kick to the corners and you're just going to stay in it and rely on that 1 or 2 opportunities that come through a game and win the game, and that doesn't work, what do you then tell your players? And I know that they're all buying into this defence first idea, which is exactly what Adam O'Brien's done up there at Newcastle, and that's working for them. But that was enacted during the off-season. This one seems to be a bit of a change on the run from Maguire, and just the look on his face was, I am going to see this through to the end. This is how I'm going to do it. And again, I was sitting there watching with my brother, who's a Tigers fan, and look, he hasn't watched football the same way I or you do. But he was, after 5 minutes, he was saying, I've seen this game before. We will be in this game until the last 20 minutes, and then the Raiders will come over top of us because they're going to play some football at one stage and they'll beat us. That's exactly what happened. What do you take out of that if you're a Tigers fan?
Well, looking at the team that Madge picked, I'm not sure that he picked a team that had the firepower to play football. With all due respect to all of the ones that were playing, Benji needs to be in that team. And I don't really know how Benji lost his position, to be honest, if it was something at training or if it's an attitude. Or I can't see it being the game before.
It's game style. I think it's game style, pure and simple, because Benji won't play. Benji won't stick to that direct, this is how we're going to play for 80 minutes. It's not his go. It's not how he's built.
He's very off the cuff, isn't he? I mean, he's he's one of those live wire attacking guys that'll do stuff that you don't expect, and that's his strength.
And he'll win games for you.
It will win games for you. I don't know. Look, I'd be very interested to know how long Madge will persevere with Josh Reynolds in that position without even a Benji on the bench. I could see over the other day, I was at that game, obviously, and I could see over, and Benji was sitting not on the bench, but behind the bench with his beanie on. And
happy camper. Oh, very happy camper.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to be there, just quietly. I'm not sure how much longer Madge can go through with that. I mean, look, Madge would have been absolutely seething about Packer the other night. I don't know how long it's been since Russell's played in the first.
I think it's about a year. It was actually over a year, because I think the last game he played was the Easter Monday game against the Eels last year.
Right. And I think he was on for a few minutes. He was on for a few minutes and then went for 10.
Yeah, which was clear as day. You just can't do what he did, and he got binned, and then he came back on, and he's very lucky to only have 2 weeks off for what was a reckless high tackle. It wasn't careless. He got grade 3 apparently, but the player was pinned in the tackle, and he came in and just went whooshka on to Pine.
Will we see Packer in a Tigers NRL jersey again?
They're still paying him.
Yeah, I think it'd be a big ask to see him in that jersey again, unless they're really down on numbers. Madge isn't the type of bloke that will if he's not going to put up with Benji's unpredictability, he's not going to put up with a firebrand that could have himself sent off and be sitting on the sidelines for 6-8 weeks for something he's done that's silly. Look, I really believe that Madge has pulled the wrong rein on this, and I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't ride that pony to hell, and just for the sake of trying to be right. He's smarter than that. But yeah, it's. I think the Tigers need to play some footy. That's what I think. I don't think they've got the cattle to play that grind game. Their team's been built. Especially when, like you said before about Ben Hunt. They built that team around Ben Hunt. Whoever they've bought since he's come along has come along as an ancillary to Ben Hunt. When they decided to go with Benji last year and again this year, they bought players around. And look, there's some players there that are great. That I like Harry Grant. I really like him. He's a good player. Luke Brooks has never really aimed up for mine. He's never really gotten to the heights that people thought that he would. And when he first came onto the scene, he was going to be the next Joey.
Yeah, but that's
a very
lazy.
big. Yeah, it's a very big title to live up to. But he's never quite really kicked on. You know what I mean? I think Moses is a better halfback than him now.
I think his last 2 years have been very good. Brooks?
I think they've been okay. I think someone like Moses is better now, and that takes a lot for me to say. You know my love affair with Mitchell Moses, but he's a type of half that needs a side man. He can't run the show on his own, or he hasn't really done it effectively yet. So maybe that'll change. But yeah, the Tigers, mate. They got done by a Raiders team that weren't great, but what are the Raiders now? 4-1.
Yes.
Yep. And the two unbeaten teams so far are the Roosters and Para, correct?
Correct. And they play each other Saturday night. Just Ricky Stewart, 400 games as coach. He celebrated on the weekend. It was hilarious watching him chug his beer afterwards, and he didn't quite finish it, and then poured the remains on his hair. That would have been fun in the nice, cool, crisp Campbelltown air. But well done to Ricky Stewart. A lot of people say he still can't coach, and he's 400 games in, has a premiership, bunch of grand finals. Who knows what he'll pull out this year. We do need to talk about Para and the fact that they are undefeated. Everyone loves them. They did well because Penrith were in control of their game. Penrith led 10-0, but it was always a dicey lead. It's one try and you're on the brink of losing the game.
Yeah.
Para, okay. They haven't blown me away in any of their games this year. Probably the most impressive win for mine was when they beat Brisbane, where they ran that possession into a big win at the end. That was a good sign if I'm a Para fan.
Yeah.
The other night, look, the difference was Wanga Blake versus Stephen Crichton twice. That was the difference in the game. And they were good enough to take it away. The big talking point out of this, and we've got to touch on the Para Roosters game soon, but Clint Gutherson's challenge in the air that got penalised and then made fun of, I'm sorry, how he didn't attack to charge for that. He has kneed Aikens in the head. He's jumped up 5 minutes before the ball comes down. And it's not the first time I've seen this happen, not just by him, but other players as well.
Yeah.
I was livid at the time. I couldn't believe it got through to the keeper and it's not an issue. That is dangerous. It is as bad as running through on a fullback and taking out his legs. And we're just moving on and it's fine. No charge. Play on, apparently.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you might have sent me a text when that happened because I was at that game. Yeah, I think it was dangerous. I think it was careless, reckless. I totally agree with you. It didn't look good live. It looked even worse on the playback. So I don't know how he didn't attract a charge. Maybe because of who he is. I mean, he's the larrikin, the king.
King Gutho.
King Gutho. But you're right, mate. Wanga Blake, the experience and the strength and the size, he got over the top of Crichton. I don't think that'll always happen. I think Crichton will end up meeting the measure of Wanga Blake one day. I'm wondering about why they've sat Brent Naden down. He's in the extended bench this week.
My only thought is that he didn't come back fit. That's a theory because he's been looking to get Crichton in there. And I will say this about Crichton. If I'm Ivan Cleary, I'm not happy I lost the game, but that's something that a rookie needs to experience. He needs to see the impact of, gee, I was the best at everything up until I reached this level, and now I've just been done by the bloke whose job I took.
Yeah.
It's a good learning thing for Crichton. And,
sure.
And my impression of him is he will carve up this weekend. I know he's got the Storm, but he'll bounce back. He looks like that kind of player.
He may not carve up this weekend. He will carve at some stage this year. I've said to you before, I believe he's actually a fullback. I've seen him play a little bit of fullback before. I really like him at fullback. They've brought Dylan Edwards back. Now, Dylan Edwards, I don't know if he was injured or if he was still recovering from the bomb fest that they planted on him a couple of times last year.
Melbourne, ironically enough, if you remember that. And that was when you were out there. That's when you got the shout out from the country folk, mate.
Yes. Look, I think Brent Naden on one side and Stephen Crichton or what's his name? Farah. Farah is a great defensive centre, but we don't often see him attack much these days. He is getting a little bit older. He's not old. But Brent Naden was fantastic last year.
Yeah, even on that, and I think it doesn't matter who's there. Penrith need to push wider than the edge. And the biggest point I'll take out of that game, it's going to be a strange podcast. We're both going to give Mitchell Moses a rap in the same podcast. I don't know how it happens, but he marked up on Kickout very, very well. Now, I posted this on Twitter and I got a note back saying, well, you're offside all the time. Hey, if you get away with it, well done. I'll clap you. He made sure that the contact on Kickout was immediate. It was impactful. He wasn't the one that always brought him down, but he hit him before he got a head of steam. And that's what you need to do on players, especially if Penrith aren't going to push it wider, which is something that I thought Jerome Luai was actually busy, but he wasn't that effective. Cleary was okay. But when they had that weight of possession, Crichton didn't get the ball. Their wingers didn't get the ball. They just got to be a little bit more expansive. And I like Burton, but I can understand why Cleary's persisting with Luai because that's the one that he went through the whole off-season with. But Burton is a beast. He has bulked up massively, but it looks natural. It doesn't look like he's just been in the gym the whole time and it's just like...
No, he's grown a little bit like Greg Inglis did. Remember Inglis had that off-season where he came back and he just looked... It was like... I always thought Inglis... When he was playing kind of wing for Melbourne, I always thought, you're too skinny, mate. You're tall and you've got good bones, but you're too skinny. He came back one off season, maybe 15 kilos heavier, 20 kilos heavier. It was like, whoa, you monster. Burton is a bit like that, I'm not sure Burton will always be a 5'8", though. I'm not convinced on that. Depends on how much he wants to run and whatever. But I'll tell you now, I thought last year Cleary looked a lot better playing on the left with kick out. Now he's floating now, but he's mostly playing on the right.
Mainly on the right.
Away from kick out.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I loved him on the left and Maloney on the right last year. and
especially with now Cape Will is out for like 10 weeks.
Yeah.
If I'm Cleary, and look, we're not the coach, but we just see things and we obviously this podcast is we just give an opinion and you can disagree if you like. Move him over with kick out. It's not a case of, let's keep both sides strong. No, go all in on that other side of the field. If you want to, Cleary's good enough to go and play the other side when he needs to.
Yeah,
I think he should be the best out of kick out.
Yeah, and Capewell's a big loss. I'm glad you said that because, geez, I like the look of him in the first few games. He's a good player. Really unlucky to lose him, But full marks to Parramatta. They're still 5-0, and I don't think you'll see Penrith play Parramatta the same way next time. You can't relax on a 10-0 lead, not against Parramatta or Canberra or Melbourne.
We'll get to the last three games very quickly. It was Clinics Tissue soft defence at Central Coast Stadium on Friday night when the Warriors beat the Cowboys. Good on the Warriors, 37-26. Barn burner in terms of scoring. Two very average teams though.
What are the Cowboys now? Is it 1-4?
No, they're 2-3, I think. I think they went back to back before and after COVID. And then they look average, and Tamalolo clearly wasn't 100% coming back.
Paul Green's chair will be getting warm.
Very much so, especially you won't have Val Holmes this week or Jordan McLean. They're down on troops again. Warriors, I'm every win they have, let's celebrate it. Well done. But it'll be against teams like the Cowboys and the Titans and the Bulldogs and those sort of sides.
I don't think they're going to finish last.
No. The other game that we have to there's two other games. Souths do what Souths have done for really the last 12 months to 2 years. They beat up on a bad team.
Yep.
I'm not going to get carried away with Latrell and say he's back. I liked what I saw from Latrell, and some of the players were really nice.
I did too.
But I want to see
But
more from South against a good team.
We want to see Latrell do that against Melbourne or against, Roosters or Para.
Or Raiders or whatever, yeah. Just really throw himself in there. I don't have to see 1,000 metres every week. And the stats just quietly are going through the roof at the moment. Just quickly go back on that Tigers game. Adam Dewey had like 260 metres and was ineffective. So if you want to equate stats to effectiveness, don't always do that, kids. The other game was the Storm and the Cam Smith masterclass against Newcastle, where they just rode possession into a victory.
I didn't see that one.
Cam Smith was really good in this game. I was very impressed, and you've been impressed a lot of time, but this was one of those games we went, yeah, Cam, quality. The big story point out of this was two things, but the first one I'll say is that I loved the fact that last week, Kalen Ponga carved the Raiders up. Carved them up. Sensational. And the hype on him wasn't big. It's funny. He's just re-signed also with the Knights for another 4 years.
He did, for 4.5 million.
Good on him. Got the money, take it. Good on you. But I saw an article on Fox Sports, and I'm sorry that I read it sometimes, but, it happens. Inadvertently, I didn't go after it. It was in like a list of things that were happening. And they were bagging him for not going right at one point. And look, if he goes right, they probably score. Okay? They're like, this is why he's not in the top echelon of fullbacks like Trbojevic or Tedesco, who would have made that try happen for sure. You don't know that. The beauty of a Kalen Ponga is that he can make something out of nothing. Now, should he have gone to the right? Yes. But that's the thing. You're buying a player who can make his own mind up. And maybe he thought the play was to step back on the inside. And that's what you've got to go with. And to say that means he's not in the class of the Tedesco and Trbojevic. So you're saying if he makes that play, then he's in that class? Is that what is that what you're saying with that comment?
Is that the trigger moment? Yeah, I know what you're saying. Look, Kalen is very much a left side player, but sometimes with players, they need time and experience. He's only young. He's only what is he, 22, something like that. So it'll come. It'll come. He'll be at some stage. I will guarantee you that someone brands him, or a bunch of people brand him, the best player in the world.
Of course. The other part of this game was Craig Bellamy's comment after the match. The Storm haven't adapted fantastically well, apparently, to the 6 again rules, which we all expected. And he's a smart individual. He's got smart players out there. They'll figure it out. And a lot of what teams are doing at the moment is they're just lying on the player as opposed to always doing the hand on the ball or the clamping. But he did come out of the game, and smart coaching. I don't like it, but it's smart what he's doing. He's trying to put pressure on the referees and the referees' boss. And his argument was, I've got the quote here. Give me 2 seconds while I bring it up. He basically said, we're probably a bit too structured for the way I think you need to play footy under these new interpretations. We're not going to throw that right out the window, but we need to find a balance. Tonight we were penalised for 6 agains, and we only got 1 in our favour. I just don't know what the difference is there. That's one thing that we're struggling with a bit at the moment, knowing what we're doing wrong to get those 6 agains against us. We've had a few without doubt, but I didn't see a whole heap of difference. And this is the point that he makes out of that. He goes, the one thing that is causing me a little bit of angst is that sometimes the referee is doing it tough too. He calls a 6 again, but doesn't say what it's for. I think we need to know what it is so we can improve in those areas, because we're getting way too many 6 agains against us. Now, this is brilliant from him from manipulating the media and referees' point of view, but it's totally unreasonable, and it's something that I'm adoring that referees have adapted. And I'm going to give referees a rap here. Since the start of the 6 again thing 3 weeks ago, to now, they have stopped giving reasons in depth about why it's 6 again. They've just called 6 again. Now, it might be a hand on ball, and sometimes it's a bit, they don't always verbalise it. They shouldn't have to. If they see something and we want the game to flow like it's supposed to, they should just be able to call 6 again. They don't have to justify themselves to the captain, to the coach or whatever. If the referee's boss wants to list the reasons for things after the game, that's up to him. And if he wants to try and implicate the coaches. But this is something that if you don't do the wrong thing, you're not going to get pinged, essentially. And this is the thing where I give Melbourne credit because of the way they're doing it. They're basically looking for a way to say, these are the reasons we're getting pinged. So if we can find another way around it, they're not going to call us on it. And I don't know.
I tend to disagree. I think they should say what it is. If they see it, they should just say it and then say 6 again. Holding down 6 again, hand on ball 6 again.
Which they can, but I think what Bellamy wants is he wants an explanation about who it was.
Yeah, look, I don't think you need to go into that. I just think you need to say what it's for and then 6 again. Even if it's just a couple of words. Holding down, 6 to go.
Which I think they're doing it for the majority, to be fair. But there are ones where they're just going 6 again, 6 like, right. And that's what he's getting at. He's going, we can't. If we had 6 against us this time, I want to know on the run who it was, what it was for, and how we can fix it.
Yeah, I don't think the referee needs to say who it was or anything else. Just what the offence is, 6 again, and be just let it go, because there'll always be some conspiracy theorists that are like, oh, he's just given 6 again because he wants to, or because that's what some people think. Some people are a bit crazy like that.
We actually had a question on Twitter in relation to that. Luke Palmer asked us. He's just saying, how are we gauging the 6 again as a consistency element? Here you go. Is gauging consistency with the 6 again ruling? Will refs get better at this, or is it just pot luck? I think the second halves are pot luck to a degree. I think the first halves have been pretty good for the most part in all the games I've seen. The issue that we're going to have, it's going to be the natural way with any crackdown, any rule. If the game is going in one direction, and we've seen a few of these, the referee is not going to call 6 agains in the second half like he did in the first half. It's just not going to happen. Are you okay with that?
No. I'm never okay with that. I've got to be honest with you. I like it to be fair until the last minute. I don't like refs giving a team a break because they're getting flogged by 80. I think that teams put an effort in, whether they've got the worst player, the most cheeky, nasty player in the world in their team. I think everything should be decided on its merit in that moment, not because they're leading by 70 or they're trailing by whatever. No, I'm not okay with that, but I've never have been okay with that. I like referees to be almost robotic, impartial, fair, no matter what. Rule on at the moment, not just don't rule on what's happening on the scoreboard. Rule on the moment. That's why I am.
That's fine. I don't disagree. We do need to get to some of the moves that have happened in the last day or three. We'll do that after the break. There's a pretty comprehensive review of the last week in rugby league. We can't help ourselves. It'll very much inform our tips for round number 6. But you wanted some analysis. Well, no, you didn't want some analysis, but you got it anyway. Here on Not The Footy Show, we're back to talk some more rugby league on episode 216.
Not The Footy Show.
Kramer, say it isn't so.
Oh, it'd be so.
I'm out there, Jerry, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Okay, we're back. Last segment here on Not The Footy Show because I'm running out of battery power and I think the police are looking for me somewhere. The car has turned off at least once. I do have a new battery in the car, though. It died as a result of not driving it for so long during the last few months. So hopefully it's going to be good to get back home. I'm going to kick off, and we will get to the player moves shortly. But Buzz Rothfield, our mate Buzz, came up with a pretty good hot take during the week. And it essentially surrounded the fact that New South Wales, who aren't going to be playing an Origin series until November, and I'm noticing all the Origin talk that it's around at the moment, so that people are running out of things to say already. But he's declared that New South Wales are on course to win 9 in a row, Cocksmith. Oh, what do you think about that one?
Nothing surprises me with Buzz. Look, I love a bit of Origin talk just as much as the next bloke. You know that. But I really think they're jumping. I really think Buzzy Boy's jumping the gun. New South Wales have won 2 in a row. Let's not put the cart before the horse here. Let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? No, mate. He's looking for some clickbait. He's throwing out a bit of bait.
Click it.
Yeah,
and it probably worked.
Well, it probably did because Origin generally works with most people. I didn't click on it. I don't click on his thing anymore. If I see him on Twitter, because 9 times out of 10, it's you've got to subscribe to the Telegraph, and I shan't be doing that.
Yes, I'm totally with you there. There's been some good clickbait over the last. Oh, there's clickbait every week. But Buzz wins for the pure audacity of just
he wins every week.
Queenslanders and just saying. Interesting. We did touch on it last week, but it's good to see Buzz is so happy that Josh Reynolds got off from his drug charge. But less said about the better.
Very sincere.
There are some moves that have happened in rugby league as of late. We saw Andrew McCullough join the Knights a few weeks back. Now, Supercoach Seabold gets a mention, has picked up Isaac Luke for the rest of the year. What do you make of that pickup? I know they do need a 9, and Corey Pakes has been playing there. Isaac Luke, is he the right option?
I think he's the only option at the moment, isn't he? I mean, there's not many of them, unless you can convince McInnes to go there for a ton of cash. Or Ben Hunt. Yes. I don't know. I think Bully's the only, Isaac Luke's the only one that's around that, obviously his manager bid on the bait and said, okay, do they want to go up to Queensland? Apparently, Bully says that him and his missus wanted to finish in Queensland anyway for some reason. Okay. And there you go.
Good pickup for what you'll get from him now. He's a 20 to 30 minute player a game. He's not more than that. And
good player.
If he can, and he'll be playing behind a pretty good pack when they all get back in fitness. I think Pangai Jr. is back for him this week. But the long and the short of that is McCullough for Luke, which is an interesting trade. Corey Thompson has ended up at the Titans, and he's gone straight into fullback for them. I don't know if it's an upgrade for them, but he has signed a multi-year deal, so he will be the fullback for the rest of the year.
Yep,
that's what it is.
Good fella. I don't think he's going to change their fortunes too much.
No, and Phil Sammy is probably their best outside back now to go and play on the wing again, even though he was there at fullback. The Sharkies picked up Bryson Goodwin and Nean McDonald. Nick McDonald, who was one of the best wingers in the game as of 2 years ago at the Dragons.
Yeah.
He's come back out of not retirement. He just left rugby league at the start of last year.
Where'd he go? Did he go to disco dancing or something?
I don't know what he was doing, but he went back because he signed with the Cowboys apparently to go home, and then so he's back. He's got a contract, I think, with the Sharks.
Hold on, is Neany McDonald? Did he break his leg up there? Is that what happened to him? Who was the one that broke his leg?
Yeah, he was injured. And then
Who was the one that did that with the referee? The referee didn't call time off, and he had a dislocated.
Yeah, that was against Melbourne, I think.
Was that him?
Up there in Townsville, and and then I'd be putting words in his mouth if I said it was he didn't want to. I don't know what it was, but he walked away from the Cowboys. They just went, okay, we'll let you go.
Was there some off-field issue?
Oh, it probably was. But I don't have I haven't got the details, so I don't really want to speculate on that front. But he's joined the Sharks. Bryson Goodwin. I always thought that was a really interesting move to go to South. They almost signed him halfway through last year to come across.
Did he play? No,
I think he may have played the Charity Shield in a preseason game, but he didn't play any.
That's right. He did
club footy. But the Sharkies started the year with a glut of centre and wingers, and then all of a sudden, 2 of them disappeared. And they picked up 2 veterans. But the big move, we touched on it earlier, which is Luke Thompson to the Bulldogs. So there's been a bunch of player movement in the last couple of days. I think we'll see a little bit more of it. I don't know when the deadline is this year because of the way that the season's changed. It's usually June 30, but
I think someone said August something.
August. Oh, okay, it could be August. Okay, there you go. I think we'll still see a bit more because without any reserve grade, players are going to be itching to play rugby league. So if they're not going to get a look in, and I think Luke's a great example of that, where a team with need for a backup hooker all of a sudden have like their $1.2 million halfback playing 9, he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
We did have another bit of news, which is that the Great Australian Podcast page has featured us. So thank you for that. Let me find it. Great Australian Pods. It's done by Cherry Ann, but it's greataustralianpods.com, and we have been listed there. So thank you very much. They've even spelt your name correctly, Rob. 2 B's.
Well done.
So
not
I know
2 X's.
you're very happy with that. Just pull you back. Tips for round number 6, mate. We're going to quickly run through this because, people just couldn't get enough of it the last time.
Yeah, they're salivating for it. They're ready.
They were like 5 from 5. You guys are geniuses. And then we weren't.
Who's playing?
Knights and Broncos. Broncos are Thursday night. Who knew? Cocksmith? It's in the Central Coast. We may get crowds in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which the most interesting part of that whole discussion around crowds is they're going to change the locations, because if you're going to ask, the great example is Canberra fans, are they going to go from Canberra up to Campbelltown for a game against the Dragons in a few weeks? No, and why would you? And there's major issues. I think even like because people aren't going to want to drive home afterwards. Like that then creates the whole. Can you have multiple new people from an area in hotel? Like, what does that all mean? Move the game to Canberra if you can. Oh, I don't know. And that's not as a Canberra fan saying that. Look after the Raiders. It's like there's just a logistic element to this that is interesting. Newcastle and Brisbane. What are your thoughts?
Newcastle.
Yeah,
Newcastle by 10.
Okay. Well, Pangai Jr. is back. That is a big in for the Broncos, but I don't think it's enough. And I think Alex Glenn as well has been named. But Tony Staggs did a hamstring at training and he's out. One bright spot I did take out of last week is that Supercoach Seabold has a game plan, and that's kick it to Xavier Coates. It kind of worked until the kid kept knocking on when it kept getting kicked to him. But, hey, if it's not a bad option. And he has also moved Corey Oates back to the wing for some reason. He didn't play too badly in the back row. But Knights as well from me. Rabbitohs and Warriors. This is at Bank West. I think this is another example of the Bunnies beating up a inferior team. Agree?
Rabbits.
Yes. Panthers at home. Well, hang on. Where are they playing? Campbelltown. Up against the Storm. What are your thoughts?
I'm shooting that game. My heart says Panthers, but my head says Melbourne. Got to go the head.
Yeah, look,
Melbourne.
If Penrith had held on against Para and done the business and looked after that match last week, I'd be happily going in Penrith's direction. But I saw that story last week, and I think the same sort of thing has got potential to happen again. So Melbourne for me against a classy outfit like that. Then we get to the battle of the teams that are in contention for the 8, according to Cox of Camden. And that's the Titans and the Dragons, both with one victory, both looking superb in 14th and 16th.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one team here could jump up to at least 12th, mate. That's what's on the line here. Who are you thinking?
The Dragsters.
On the road up there in Brisbane. Wow, big call.
Yep. No, they will. They'll stitch 2 games together. They will back to back them,
and then they follow that with Canberra and East. So good luck. Dragons for me as well. Tigers and Cowboys. This is back at Campbelltown, and I think even the dreary Maguire game plan that he put out last week is going to be enough to beat the Cowboys for the Tigers. Agree?
Yeah, I agree. Tigers
as well. Then on the last game on Saturday is the 2 undefeated. Oh, well, it feels like the 2 undefeated teams. Everyone's forgotten about the fact the Roosters started 0-2. They're at home. Well, it's at Bank West, so not really home. Up against Parramatta. The Roosters will get Maria Hargraves back from injury. Parramatta. I will respect Parramatta a heck of a lot if they get up here. I can't pick them, but I would respect.
Roosters.
Roosters.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Hey, what do you make of Fox Sports putting a little sound effect at the end of a try? I don't mind
What
it.
is it? I don't even know. What are they?
When I've only seen a couple of games where I've noticed it, but the Roosters, when they score, you got the old cock-a-doodle-doo happening after the try,
really?
which I don't
Do
mind.
they do that for every team?
Well, I heard the Storm when they scored, but I don't know what they're using for other teams.
I'd like to know what they're doing for the Eels.
I don't know. Electric eel? How do you do that? Just put a knife in a... kids, don't do that. Don't put a knife in an electric socket. Do not do that, even if you're recording the secret sound for Fox Sports. Raiders and its Eagles, mate. But Manly, no Tapau and no Sully, no Tafua. Thoughts?
Canberra.
I'll go the Raiders as well, but as long as DCE and...
Of course you will.
Look at this. Hang on. Am I wearing it? Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Not the Footy Show Raiders shirt.
Of course you'll go the Raiders. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I will. And Sharks. We've got another barn burner to end the round. Sharks and Bulldogs, mate.
Sharks. Seriously, if the Sharks can't get up this week, if the Bulldogs do, no. Again, barn burner. I'm taking the Sharks. What noise does they put on for the end for the Sharks?
Has to be dun.
Really?
Has to be that, doesn't it?
Okay, fair enough.
I watched the Channel 9 version on Sunday, so I didn't see what they did for them. The Bulldogs would be barking, I gather. Actually, that's interesting. If you've got any ideas for the teams that don't make sense, let us know.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed by Foran the other night. And in a game where they're going up against a team that's as bad as Cronulla played last week, I'm still going to pick Cronulla, but I'm entertaining the Bulldogs. So Cronulla it is from me as well. Buddy, that is the podcast. Is there anything else we need to cover off? Because I think we've done a pretty good job.
I think we've covered everything that you.
There's one more. There's one more. It's with a heavy heart that I announce that the preeminent player agent in rugby league, he's copped a letter from the NRL.
A love letter.
On Moses, basically threatening him with his registration being torn up because of an incident with Tim Manor and the integrity unit. I think it's a couple of years ago, but yeah, look, the details are pretty much that we know, but it will impact a lot of things that are in motion, particularly around the one Jay Bateman of Canberra via Wigan. Because if he can't get an upgrade through Moses, does he want an upgrade at all, Cocksmith?
Yeah, who knows, mate? Was it a phone call from Mr. Moses' office that inspired him to look for more money? Who knows? I have no idea. But I do know that Mr. Moses has been on the radar of the NRL's. It's been well publicised that he's been involved in bits and pieces of friction and maybe stepping outside of his described role as far as having lots of players at certain clubs coming off contract all at once. And I'm not too sure. But you know what? The great thing is that the NRL of doing due course, and they will let him appeal if he wants to appeal. I'd say he would. Yeah. I mean, he's not going to let it go that easily.
The important thing to note here is the conclusion. I'm reading from the press release here on the NRL website. But it says they have announced the conclusion of disciplinary proceedings against Isaac Moses in relation to his accreditation. So it means that this whole process, as you say, has been underway for a period of time, and they've gone into detail. They've done what they do, and I think I mentioned it on the pod before, but I've also been called into some of those things that have been done around the integrity unit about how it's seen publicly when I was there, and. Yep. Very interesting to see if any of the people who are in my position now got asked, I've gone dark again. Isaac Moses, he's got people in. He knows he's worked on the car. Oh, I'm all right.
The lights are out.
Maybe it's those Harvard hackers again, mate. Like they finally heard the podcast from last week and they've infiltrated the RAV4. But what's happened basically is that it's surrounding something with Tim Manor. And the word, I'm reading it straight from the website. The NRL found that Moses breached his obligations as an accredited agent in 2017 by procuring and assisting one of his clients, Tim Manor, to give evidence to the NRL that was false and intended to mislead an investigation of the NRL Integrity and Compliance Unit.
Yep.
Wow.
That's a real smart thing to do, especially if the NRL finds out about it. They don't really take lying in an official meeting very lightly. So I dare say they'll be trying their best. Not trying their best. They look like they've succeeded in deregistering him. So now Mr. Moses will have to do his best to convince them otherwise. So,
but just say he's got the right to appeal, and part of that is that if leave to appeal is granted, his accreditation will continue to be recognised until notified by the NRL. So. That is the last piece of news. I'm just doing one final little search. I don't think there's anything else that we can see that is new. As we said, we mentioned the re-signing of Ponga in Newcastle. I like the fact that he's done that. And I like the fact that Newcastle have ponied up. They were bold in getting him in the first place. They paid massive overs to get him, given what he'd done in rugby league at that stage. Sure. But I tell you, if you're Paul Green and you're going, I could have had Kalen Ponga, eh?
Yeah, you missed the train there, mate. Look, as good as Valentine Holmes is, I'd take Kalen over Valentine, especially at fullback. Be great to have them both in the team. I think Valentine Holmes is probably one of the best wingers in the game. But when it comes to comparing, and I know he's just come back from NFL, but when you compare probably the three other best fullbacks in the game, or let's even add a recently retired great, Billy Slater, Tom Trbojevic, Tedesco, and Ponga. All four of them are better than Valentine Holmes, and some by a considerable margin. So yeah, I think that he might have missed the boat there with Kalen, but from what I hear, he was signed pretty early on by Newcastle. He still had a year to go at North Queensland, and he'd signed with Newcastle.
They got stuck in a really tough spot, the Cowboys, where they'd won the comp in 2016.
Yeah.
And Lachlan Coote was only about 25 or 26 at the time.
Mm.
You understand why they re-upped with him, and it was that decision that cost them Ponga. But there's things lightning in a bottle and all that kind of stuff. Do you think it's going to strike again? I mean, to be fair, they did make the grand final a couple of years later, the Cowboys. But one of those things where you go, if you've got a Callum Ponga sitting there and he's happy and he wants money and you think he's the guy, you probably insult Lachlan Coote by taking Ponga. You probably do that if you think this is. And you've also got at that stage they had Tamalolo, I think, just under contract for 10 years.
JT was still there.
Thurston was like, it's just one of those things where I understood what they did, but they're probably kicking themselves. Final point, we got actually an email message through from the NRL Roast, the honcho, Dean M, letting us know that he actually listens to the show, so thank you for that. Appreciate that. And he has put out a challenge to us. I think it's a challenge. It's a generous offer, but it's a challenge, and that is, can we produce a minute of radio that's actually worthy of going on his Instagram page? That is the question, people. So if you're listening to our show and you think we've actually hit any bar of impressiveness, is that the right terminology there, Cocksmith? Does it need to be impressive, or does it need to be the most exciting thing ever?
I don't know. It could be just tearing someone a new one. I told you we get Tony Solway on here. I'll give you more than a minute.
I've had some very interesting discussions with people. My flatmate is a big footy fan, and we talk heaps. And I've said it many times. He'd be a fantastic regular co-host on this show, but he just refuses to come on it. He works overnight for a company, and somehow he was going on YouTube, filling the hours. He came across this show, and the next afternoon, he knocks on my door and he goes, "How you going?" I said, "Yeah, good." He goes, "Oh, somehow I watched your show last night. Pretty good." So thanks, mate. Appreciate that. He goes, "But I can guarantee that I know what you weren't happy with during the podcast."
What, me walking around my hotel room?
He nailed it. The very next day, he said, "I could just see it in your face. You just," like he said, I watched your eyes. I could tell you were watching Rob walk around the room, just scraping his phone every 5 seconds. That's what happens when you live with a mate for a long time. He knows the little different things that set you off. But
I knew it was bothering you as well. That's why I did it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, so apologies to everybody for last week when you had the constant DJ Cocksmith going in the background, making the vinyl sing.
I blame the 5 glasses of Merlot I had before we did the podcast.
We also had, actually, I do one final thing. Sorry, everyone. Cocksmith, can you just fill for 30 seconds, mate?
Yeah.
What do you want? Now?
What do you want me to do?
Phil, just say some words.
Yeah. What kind of words do you want me to say? Merlot, Tony Solway. What are you trying to get me to fill?
Because I'm trying to pull up Grant Croxford.
Oh, you're looking something up. Oh, you're going to have to edit this now.
Thanks, mate.
What's Grant saying?
So Grant, who we shouted out to last week, has come back, and he has 5 points of validation about what we're doing, apparently, on YouTube. Okay. He says this show just keeps getting better. He says, number 1, Matty Duncan every week, please.
Yep. Where is he? He didn't phone in tonight.
I did ask him to come on last night, and he said, I didn't see much of the football, so don't do that. Talk to me during the middle of the week, and here we are doing a middle of the week podcast, and I didn't ring him up. 2, Cocksmith looked like he was on an adult webcam first part of the show. Quite disturbing. Why are you watching adult webcam?
How would you know what they look like, Grant?
Number 3, assuming once the Merlot wore off, Cocksmith moved to the left of the screen and sat up. So he nailed that one.
Yes.
Number 4, is travel with Cocksmith going to be a new feature, or are you leaning towards how to fix rugby league in 5 emails to the right people?
We should do that. We should start sending emails under a pseudonym to, I don't know, Warren Ryan and all sorts of people, and ask them about, some cutting edge stuff. But that could be a little content, like a little project. What do you reckon?
I reckon Lachlan Murdoch's the one I'm going to do first, and see if John Rebo intercepts it. Number
Rebo's
5, he says, keep up the good work. You guys are awesome. So thank you very much, Grant. It is appreciated. And a few other comments that are there, people not happy with the 6 again rule, which is no surprise.
I like it. I do like the rule. I really like it. I just, like I said to you before, I just want them to say what it's for, and then give the little, and the bell goes ding a ding ding.
We discussed it, and we have talked to the 6 again a lot, but it's clear that the last 5-10 minutes, there needs to be almost an edict or an unofficial announcement to the clubs. If you deliberately trying to give away 6 agains when you're just in front, or the game is even, or the game is...
We will give a penalty.
No, we won't just give a penalty. We will bin you, because it's it's a professional foul. Dylan Brown the other night, he wasn't the first eel to do that in the last couple of minutes. It's
look, the definition of a penalty is giving away. Of a professional foul is giving away a penalty on purpose.
Well, here you go, Peter Volandis.
Doing something on purpose to disrupt play. So, yeah,
do it.
I liked it the other night when they sent young Brown for 10, even though there was only 30 seconds to go on the clock.
But they'd eaten up 30 seconds doing that before he got binned. And that's my frustration with that part of the rule. Speaking about Luke Palmer's comment, it's like, okay, you want to do it, or you get binned. And the beauty of the bin is that the first thing that happens when you get sent to the sin bin, time goes off.
I think there should be something anyway, especially in those last 2 minutes of any game, that the bunker turns the clock off as soon as the referee starts chatting with a player. Clock's off. You want to chat? Clock's off.
Or maybe that's something they can do. If you're not going to go straight to the bin, maybe if he calls a penalty, he calls time off straight away when he gives a penalty for a 6 again infringement.
The referee's in a really tough spot in that situation. And just quickly before you go, because he knows that the attacking team want to keep attacking. Okay. And he also knows that the defending team wants to chat with him for 5 minutes if they can, because they want to break. Whereas the attacking team want to keep rolling on, So the clock is really important, but what's even more important for each team, and they've got opposite intents here, is the attacking team wants to keep, let's go now, talk to him after the game, but the defending team want to chat about everything.
Well, I don't think it's even the chat. I think it's the fact that if they lie on the play the ball 3 tackles in a row, and it's the third one they get pinged, it's that 30 seconds from lying on the play the ball that slows the whole game down and slows the attacking team from being able to roll on the attack. That's the issue. It's not the chat with the referee when the penalty's finally given.
But here's the rock and the hard place though was, if let's just say on the 3rd tackle, they've done it 2 times, they're on the 3rd, they lay on it again, referee goes, time off, come over here, Dylan, you're going for 10, okay, everyone resets, penalty. There's a good 45 seconds in that. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It needs to be a directive of the first time he notices it being deliberately done, he needs to bin it there and then.
100%. But binning them is going to take up time. Okay. And that's what the defending players want. They'll defend with 12 to get themselves a 45-second breather. What they don't want is to keep, I reckon the referee should just keep going, 6 to go, 6 to go, 6 to go. And I mean, they're only going to get so many tackles until someone makes a mistake or they score a try.
Yeah, but again, where I'm frustrated with that is that if that's their those indiscretions, even if they're calling 6 again, that's still 5-6 seconds off the clock in that play the ball, and that's the time. I get it.
But I know, but what's worse, giving a defending team 45 seconds to reset and catch a breath and lose one? Or when there's only a minute left on the clock, But
that's the key. It's when there's a minute. If there's only a minute and you can get away with burning 30 seconds before you lose the play to the sin bin, then you've won the game. It's exactly what happened the other night.
I think we're both of the same mindset. We're just looking for a slightly different way to solve it. I don't like the fact that they will. We're going to see they haven't perfected this yet. we're going to see teams that will perfect this, and they might lose a player or two in the sin bin in the last minute, but it probably won't bother them that much if they're getting a break, because the break is what they want. They want the break. Okay, they want to eat the clock and they want a break. You get someone sin binned, and all of a sudden you can probably get both of those, especially if you've got a smart captain who will want to talk to the referee about what are you sending him off for? What did he do? He didn't do that. You know, keeps burning the clock, so to speak, so that his team get a break. So I don't know what you do. I have no idea. Without saying something outlandish, like, you know, we'll add 5 minutes onto the end of the game if you keep doing this. Who knows? But
that's what they've got to work out. They've got to work that out, the referees, because that's what teams like Melbourne, teams like Parramatta clearly the other night. That's not something they've just thought of. It's something they know is the option. Exactly.
And when they perfect this whole 6 to go thing, when they figure out what the referees are likely to do and not likely to do, that's when we're really going to see them rorting it, especially in the run to the last 6 weeks of the comp this year. So,
I was impressed by that. I was impressed by that. Then is that you added 5 minutes to the show, just like that. You can make real change, mate. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm good, aren't I? I'm good. Hey, I'm gonna make sure you don't get arrested, mate. I will send you a file quite soon, and
awesome.
We'll have to call this a night.
Facebook.com/NRL podcast. We're on YouTube, W. Nicolson, Twitter and Instagram, ROBBCOX. I'm at NRL Tweet, and we are thanking you for your time. We've run over time again.
Good to see you, mate. Hey,
I'm all good.
My best to your family up there, and have a nice, relaxing time. You're going to go for a fish?
I had a little session tonight. Beautiful conditions.
Nice.
No bites. But I'll be heading out this week, getting me old baby blue. I got a little runabout that sometimes decides to sink on me. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Sounds
be targeting
like me. Sounds a whole lot like me back in the day at the nightclubs. You know, throw a few lures out, but no bites. I never had a little blue.
You got one bite eventually, mate. That's good. Well done.
Yeah.
All right. We'll speak to you next time on Not the Footy Show. What time is it for, mate?
It's time for a Pepsi.
Not the Footy Show.
It's people's escape. It's people's relaxation. And we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of
Not the Footy Show.
Pepsi.